With Jesse Varner. Kind of some technical difficulties right now. The aux cord is missing, so we're coming in dry today. And I don't have headphones right now, and my special guest is looking for them, so hopefully he will find them soon. But welcome in. We got a jam-packed show. There is absolutely a lot to talk about. Briefly, we're going to get into what's going on, what happened at Maryland this past week.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Hello, everybody.
I hope you're on. Can you say hello again? I think we have to do a mic check.
Oh, boy.
That's how this show is. Oh, boy. This is how we're already off the rails. This show is already off the rails.
I don't know. You call it off the rails.
Actually,
I call it improvisation.
I don't even know if we're, like, on the air right now. I'm looking at this. My computer is, like, completely frozen.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? I guess your computer's recovering from Halloween as well.
Oh, I think everyone's recovering from Halloween, man. What a Halloween weekend.
I love Halloween. There was somebody who had a debate going on about like which holiday is the best, and people were like mentioning, whether it was Thanksgiving or New Year's or whether it was 4th of July or anything like that. I love Halloween. It's such a unique holiday, and just something where you get to do something that you don't normally do, which is dress up like whatever you want to do. And as I go through puberty again, and think we're straightening things out here, or are we still kind of playing along as we go? I don't know. You tell me, man. So.
I don't know. I don't even think we're on the air right now. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
Well, so now I'm going to ask you.
My automation has completely frozen up.
Oh boy. Isn't that great? Here we go. I'm going to ask you to plug that one in. So yeah, like you said, we're in improvisation mode. We're in improvisation mode right here.
Yeah. I think we're on the air. Can someone give me a thumb? Are we on the air? I have got a
complete and total guessing game today.
You work in TV. You know how automation can go.
Oh, geez, yes I do.
Yeah, I've got the wheel of death right now.
Oh, wait, this is Windows. How do you get the wheel of death?
Okay, hold on. We got a line in. We're recording live.
All right. College radio, man. Nothing.
I know. God bless it, man.
There we go.
YouTube is still offline.
All right.
I think we're on the air. Okay. Okay, so hold on. For those of you, okay, I think we're finally on the air now. I think my last couple, my intro, I think was not on the air. So welcome in. Here's the thing with Jesse Varner. As you can tell already, my special guest today is going to be Nathan Epstein from Wavy Sports. Oh God, page unresponsive.
Like I said, it's in recovery mode, man. Not even technology can handle the joys and the party time of Halloween. So I have apparently now been left to co-host the show by myself now. So yeah, Jesse Varner, God bless him, he's been running around like
okay, we're finally on the air.
Like
okay,
wild man.
Okay, so yeah, we got a lot to get to today. We're briefly going to get into the Maryland situation. We're going to talk ODU at the bye, preview ODU hoops because tonight they got their exhibition against Wesleyan, and next week they'll kick off the season against Navy. We'll talk Redskins making moves at the deadline, and we'll do some NFL picks. So before I bring in Nathan, I just want to talk about briefly for a second. I don't think we're live on YouTube. That doesn't matter. We're on the air. I know a lot of people have been hearing this over the last week, but hey, I only get you on a Thursday. I get you for 1 hour a week, and I'm going to tell my opinions because it's my show. To say what has happened at Maryland was a botched investigation, was them doing the wrong thing, are complete understatements. What has happened at Maryland is everything that's wrong with big-time college athletics. If no one remembers what happened, DJ Durkin was reinstated as the head coach earlier this week and then was fired yesterday. So it's been a wild 72 hours in College Park, even to the point where the president of the university said, hey, I'm stepping aside after this year too because I'm not dealing with this situation anymore. A kid is dead. A family is grieving. They have lost their son. Teammates and friends they've lost a great friend. Durkin, the fact that Durkin was even put on administrative leave was atrocious. He shouldn't even have been part of the program after all of this went down. This what happened at Maryland is just, and the fact that to reinstate him, to bring him back to coach this team, you're sitting there saying you have confidence in a coach that killed one of your players. And then you have the audacity to place the blame on somebody else. I mean, and then you talk about, well, we don't want to talk, it's not a toxic environment. We don't want to talk about a toxic environment. Okay, when players are forcing to eat, are getting made fun of for eating too much, when players don't want to come to coaches about certain things, I think that's a pretty toxic environment. But I know in these days and age, you don't want to use the words toxic because I guess it's too toxic. I think we're finally on YouTube now. All right. To me, in my opinion, Maryland needs to be investigated by the NCAA, and they need a bowl ban. Something needs to happen. They cannot get away with this crap. I mean, a kid is dead. Somebody lost their life playing for this program. And you know who I'm going to give props to in this situation? I'm going to give props to those players in that team meeting when Durkin came back to meet with the team to say, hey, I'm the coach again. They stood up and they walked right out. Those are the guys I'm giving props to in this situation. I'll even give props to the school president who said, I'm going to retire at the end of the year. And this goes to show me he had absolutely no say in this situation. Where he did, he said, we have to fire this guy. And the Board of Regents and the Board of Visitors said, no way. We're not going to pay him out his money. We're not going to pay him what we owe him. It's just going to be too much. It's going to be a stain on the program. Guess what? You got a big old stain down for what's happened in the last 72 hours. And I hate to compare this to the Penn State and the Michigan State situations because you hate to compare something as awful as a toxic environment to something as awful as sexual assault. But this still goes to show you what college programs try to get away with and what they try to hide and what they try to sweep under the rug. And as the old saying goes, sometimes the cover-up is far worse than the crime. These programs, this is what's the problem with big-time college football and the fact that there's way too much money involved in this. These programs are afraid to have accountability. They're afraid to stand up for themselves. They're afraid to have integrity because they might have to pay out a coach $5 or $6 million to fire him. When their athletics program probably clears about $40 to $50 million a year. And that's probably a low ball statement right there. I don't have the numbers in front of me, and I would give you the exact numbers if I did. That's probably a low ball statement right there. This crap needs to, and this crap keeps happening in the Big Ten. I mean, look, but everything that happened in Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State, and Durkin gets reinstated after a kid gets killed. Jim Tressel lost his job because Terrell Pryor was trading memorabilia for games that he played in for tattoos. Property that belonged to him, games that he played in to make money for that university, he wanted to get a couple free tattoos for. Jim Tressel lost his job. Urban Meyer had a known wife beater on his team and gets suspended 4 games. Durkin kills a kid, gets, I guess, suspended, and gets reinstatement, gets his job back. This crap has just got to stop happening. These college ADs and these presidents and these board of visitors need to get some cojones and keep the integrity. I mean, there is no more integrity in college football. It's become too much of a big business. It's become too much big money. And these kids are slaving away. Like, this is why I'm all for paying players. And I know I'm going to bring in my next guest now because I want to get his opinions on this. And I know him and I have gone back and forth about the whole paying players thing. Nathan, welcome in. Hey, this is Wavy TV 10's Nathan Epstein is my guest today. You're a big time college sports fan, and you're a fan of probably one of the most does the right thing programs in all of college athletics. I mean, this crap's got to stop happening.
So there's a couple things. There are some things I agree with, some things I'm a little on the fence about. So just with regards to this situation at Maryland right now, you go back to when the incident happened in May. This happened way back in May, and you look at the investigation. The investigation says that with regards to the practice that killed this young man, that he was showing signs mentally of heat stroke, and they did not call 911 until about an hour and a half later. They were performing the practice at sort of an improvised location because where they normally practice was
not for use, and at this new location there wasn't water available, and then unfortunately he dies, and then they do this internal investigation, and what it turns up is there's no toxic environment, even though there's a toxic environment.
Yeah, the fact that your players are afraid to speak up for themselves, that's a definition of a toxic environment.
Well, and look at what the Washington Post just reported yesterday. I don't know if you saw this, but the Washington Post just reported yesterday that the punter of the team, who apparently was one of the key voices in that investigation, one of the voices that basically said, yeah, we got a big problem here, he was beaten up at practice yesterday. He was beaten up. He did an interview with the press wearing a bandage around his head, a black eye, and his arm in a sling. He said during practice, people were making fun of him. They were taunting him. They were throwing footballs at him, basically trying to say this guy's a rat. This guy's the reason that, because look, you got to remember, there are still some players in that team that did support Durkin. There were some players in that team that did not want him to be fired, and then there were some that obviously by their protest in the team meeting showed that they were not in favor of him. But the toxic environment was basically put on display at a practice yesterday. So, I mean...
It's still happening. The crap is still happening.
No, it's still going on. And with regards to Maryland, yeah, I mean, there's so much politics going on. There's so much cronyism going on because you look at President...
I like that word, cronyism.
There you go.
We're using SAT words on this program.
So, you look at the President Lowe. He actually made this decision to fire Durkin after the reinstatement on his own, because it was the Board of Regents that was the ones that recommended that the university keep Durkin. And then there were politicians, there were senators, there were congressmen for the state of Maryland that spoke out and said...
I think Larry Hogan, the governor.
Yeah.
He was like, dude, you got to get this guy out of here.
And from what I understand, President Lowe listened to the student organizations on campus. He listened to the SGA. He listened to a bunch of other organizations. And after getting a feel for the students, it was just too much. And he said,
I think ultimately that's why they fired him.
Right, right. And so he went out on his own. He made this decision to fire Durkin against the wishes of the Board of Regents. He actually made it on his own and said, nah, I got to get rid of this guy. So, yeah, I mean, the problems, to your point, the problems at Maryland seem to run way, way, way deeper than just a rogue athletic trainer that went too hard on a player and it resulted in a player's death. It seems to go way deeper than simply a macho mentality of keep running, I don't care if you pass out or not. Like you said, this seems to go, to a level that it's not very often that you hear people say we need the NCAA to investigate this. First of all, we know how long NCAA investigations take. They seem to take.
That North Carolina one, it took like 10 years. I think it's still going on.
Parts of it are still going on. And Penn State was a little different because you had a clear-cut monster. It was not, you had a clear-cut monster in the program, and that was more of a situation of what did they know and when did they know it, and that took forever to find out, and they still don't know what they knew and when they knew it. So, yeah, I mean, to your point of all the corruption that goes on and big time, there are big time programs out there that, yeah, basically do what they want and when they want to do it. And unfortunately, yeah, I don't know if there's a big sweeping reform answer to any of this. I really
well, there
don't.
never is. I mean, I thought after the Penn State situation, there was going to be a big reform of the NCAA and like these programs are going to be under a microscope more. They're not. They're not. They're still getting away with this crap.
And the fact is what you're saying. Look, the NCAA is a moneymaker. Just
shit.
Bottom line. I know that's the understatement of the year, but the NCAA is a moneymaker, and unfortunately, the NCAA does not want to mess. I mean, look, the fact is, you want to talk about toxicity. North Carolina was an example of rampant cheating. Essentially, when they were when they had academic advisors basically taking tests for these players and making phony grades and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they
were taking classes at community colleges, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pure example of just a university off its hinges, basically. But I mean, what is North Carolina? It's a brand. That's a brand that makes money.
I mean, and it's associated with the Jordan brand.
Exactly. And it's like the NCAA. If somebody says we need to give North Carolina the death penalty, excuse me. You want to do what? You want to keep that powder blue UNC logo out of the NCAA tournament? What?
Yeah. I think I know, and I think Nike and Jordan would have a lot to say with that. Here's kind of one of my last things on the whole Maryland situation before we move to another topic. I mean, bringing back Durkin, did they really think Durkin could go into a family's living room and tell them, hey, you can trust me with your son. He's going to come to our program, and he's going to be a leader of men, and he's going to be a brother. He's going to be a brother among brothers, and like we're going to be this team unity, and we're all together, and we're family. What football's all about. So how do you think Durkin was going to be able to go into a living room and look at a family straight in the eye and say, hey, I'm going to take care of your son?
Now, one thing I do disagree with, one thing you said in your opening monologue was basically that you thought that he should have been fired basically the minute that this player lost his life. I'm not. Look, I'm always the kind of guy. I am always in favor of investigations. I'm always the kind of guy of reserving judgment until I find out exactly all the facts. Because look, the fact of the matter is that Durkin. Look, the buck stops with the head man. Plain and simple. The culture that is set by the head man. Bottom line. That being said, he was not at that practice, and he, who's to say that, if he'd have been there, that things would have been done differently, or if he would have noticed something. I don't know. But I am in favor of waiting until the facts come out. But the facts have clearly shown after this investigation that there is a toxic culture. I mean, they say, like I'm sure you've read the same statement that I did. They say there seems to be no evidence of a toxic culture. There just seems to be a culture of players of fear with regards to sharing information. I'm like, well, that is a toxic culture.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's this Washington Post report of the punter of the team being beaten up because the players that still supported Durkin basically felt like he was a rat. So I was more sort of disturbed by that story and it's proof that there is a toxic culture more than anything. I mean, it's like when you stand up for what you believe is right, and look, there may be players that disagree with him. That's fine. Players are entitled to have their own opinions. I'm sure that there were players. Anybody out there that's had a boss that, there are some people that get along with that boss. There are some people that don't get along with that boss.
And we've all had that dream of telling that boss off, right?
Right. We've all had that. But as much, like, for example, you're right. We've all had that boss you want to tell off. But then in that same one, there's another person who loves that boss.
Yeah.
So, and that's just part of, being with an organization. So I get that. But you should never, ever, for the life of you, have to worry about being beaten up for stating your opinion. That's a toxic culture.
Yeah.
Well, things are rough at Maryland.
Yeah,
right now,
College Park is. I mean,
meanwhile, we're saying how the sky's falling. They're 5-3. Right?
Well,
5 in a row.
It's funny. My buddy Pat just chimed in. He's like, "Can't bowl ban Maryland if they don't make a bowl."
Hey,
that's another.
They win this weekend.
Yeah, I know, and they're hosting Michigan State at home this weekend, and that's another thing too. We're not talking about like a storied program like an Alabama or a Clemson or a Notre Dame. We're talking about Maryland. I mean, it's gotten better over the last few years with Durkin, but we're not talking about the cream of the crop of the Big Ten.
Well, and first of all, it still doesn't even sound right to me that we're calling Maryland a Big Ten school.
I know. I still think to this day Maryland is an ACC school.
I know. And look, Maryland is not. You're right. Are they elite to the level of Ohio State, Alabama, LSU, Florida? No, but they're not I wouldn't call them a bottom feeder either.
Yeah, they're not a power.
They've produced a number of NFL players. They've had years where they've made big time bowl games. Ralph Friedgen is one of the best coaches in history, and you have oh my gosh, CBS commentator. Who played quarterback for Maryland?
Oh, Boomer.
Yeah. So I mean, they've had big time players that have come out of the
program. Well, and remember, Frank Reich was originally going to take this job.
Yeah,
he was originally going to take this job, and I'm wondering. And I'll leave it on this. I'm wondering if Frank Reich took this job, if Jordan McNair is still alive today.
Now, the interesting part to me is, wondering, it's always the question with situations like this. We asked it with Penn State. We asked it with Michigan State. We're sort of asking it with North Carolina, even though there have been no really stringent penalties handed down, and none with Michigan State as of yet either. But we're asking, what's the fallout going to be? What is the fallout of all of this? And I think that's something that Lowe sort of, grabbed by the tail himself and took care of. He said, look, if Durkin is here, to your point, how in the world is he supposed to go into any kid's living room and convince that kid that you're going to come here and we're going to take care of you? How is he going to do that ever again? And so that's number one. And number two, now you have some of these coaches coming out of the woodwork and actually saying that they're interested in the job. You have Butch Jones.
Butch Jones, yeah. Actually, someone was telling me that before we were on there. Butch Jones is apparently one of the front runners for this job.
Yeah, and I think another. Gosh, I can't.
Please tell me Greg Schiano. Please tell me Greg Schiano.
Well, that's you want to talk about irony, right?
You want to talk about if a program is completely unhinged from reality. Yeah, hire Greg Schiano.
Even though, look, he was put through the ringer, and he was put through, through the same kind of questions about abuse and that kind of thing, and he defended himself. And now, look, is it worth it that, people at Ohio State, their argument are going to be, oh, well, Urban Meyer defended him and said he's a good guy. Really?
That's the kind of character reinforcement you want from Urban Meyer?
So I don't know how much that Urban Meyer word is.
Yeah, because that's a letter of recommendation I want right now is Urban Meyer. All right. We've been on the Maryland thing for enough now. Let's transition to let's stay home here a little bit and let's talk about a 2-7 football team. I'm sorry, folks. We have to. We're on the airways here of WODU. Hopefully I don't get yanked off the air for doing so. But I mean, Nathan, you cover ODU regularly. I mean, from the games I go to, the games that I see, and I probably only stay for the first half for. I'm just seeing a team on defense that just cannot stop the big play.
Man,
I'm seeing corners get threaded, man. I'm seeing corners get split. I'm seeing linebackers not rushing the edge. I'm not seeing anything in the middle. O'Shea out there, man. He can only do so much, and that kid's going to play on Sundays here soon. But what is going wrong?
Well, I can tell you one thing that they have, and Coach Wilder will tell you the same thing as he's told us, is that they have not taken advantage of the big moments. There have been so many points there have been so many key plays during games that you go back to the Marshall game. I mean, first of all, it's a shame going back to the East Carolina game. They won that game, and the refs blew it. So they should have won that game, but the refs, they made the game-winning play, making an interception, and the refs called it incomplete. Should have been ruled interception, and that was it. They walk out of that with 2 straight wins, and who knows what kind of momentum they have.
Yeah, and who knows what kind of season they're going to start having. Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. You go back to the Marshall game. They make, they're getting blown out to start off with. I think they fall into like a 20-0 hole or something like that. In the fourth quarter, they had Marshall made so many third down conversions. They cut it to a 7-point game in the fourth quarter, and I think it may have been I know they completed a 3rd down and 8 on a pass play that I looked at it over and over again. I don't know how the quarterback threaded that needle. And then 2 plays later, the running back who looked to have been caught in the backfield runs for a 65-yard touchdown play to essentially ice the game. So that's a key play there. You look at this Middle Tennessee game.
Well, that was another thing I noticed in the Middle Tennessee game. They can't stop on 3rd down.
No.
Their third down defense, it's like they're gassed or they're just mesmerized or something.
That's been their biggest absolute.
And a lot of these 3rd down conversions are like 3rd and 10s and 3rd and 12s I saw, and 3rd and 8s and 3rd and 9s, and I'm like,
and you think
make a stop.
And you think about, gosh, you talk about how the Middle Tennessee game turned. I mean, the half
that got ugly quick.
The half is approaching. Old Dominion is driving.
They're driving,
for I gotta get my plays right here, but I think they would have made it a 1-score game.
Yeah, it would have been 1-score game if they would have just.
And then the pick 6, and it's like
you're on the 2-yard line. Just run the ball.
Well,
run the football. Did you not learn anything from the Patriots and Seahawks Super Bowl when you're on the 2-yard line? Run the football.
Well,
I know Jeremy Cox has been out, and I think that's a lot that's been hurting the offense. But you still got to give your running game a chance when you're on the 2-yard line.
Well, I'm not.
And then the kid returns it for like 106 INT return.
I'm not sure, but I don't think Marshawn Lynch plays for Old Dominion.
Yeah, so. And Jeremy Cox is about the same size as Marshawn.
Yeah, that's true. But
he's not playing right now.
He has the same mentality as Marshawn. Just he's going to keep those legs churning. He's going to keep going.
Yeah, I know,
somebody
man.
brings him down. But look, the Old Dominion offense is run through the pass game right now. I mean, the fact is, and Coach Wilder has been saying, they have not been able to run the ball, so I think they feel more comfortable throwing it.
Well, I was going to...
And look, Blake has shown himself. I mean, in these games, it's amazing. His stats have been through the roof. I mean, he's averaging something like 350 passing yards a game or something like that.
That's more what I was going to get to. I mean, is it the lack of the run game that's hurting the offense right now, or is it... I mean, you can't say the quarterback play because, like you said, the stats are there for Blake. And Blake, he goes out there and he balls. But sometimes I see some plays, man, where he's he's got receivers wide open, like that are like 5 yards up the field. But it seems like he's always trying to throw the deep ball.
Well, the deep ball is where their biggest threat is right now.
Oh, yeah, when you got 2 receivers like Fulgham and Duhart, yeah.
So that's where their big threat. That's where their big play threat is. It's how they beat Virginia Tech, and shoot, they go to East Carolina. I think that's what they did all first half was just chuck it up, and let your big play receivers make a play. But as far as, can you pinpoint it to one thing? I don't know. I mean, right now, they don't have any run game. They can't make the big stop on third down. They can't really get any pressure on the opposing quarterback. Yeah, Shane is doing what he can do, but
he can only do so much.
He's about the only guy that's getting any pressure right now. Yeah. So that's a problem, and unfortunately, I don't know. I mean, it's you obviously now there's no bowl game, there's no postseason, so all you can do is
you're just playing for your teammates.
Play for your teammates and try to win a few games and look ahead to next season. But you look ahead to next season, my gosh, they lose both of those big play receivers.
Yeah,
I think Jeremy Cox is a senior, so they may be losing him. They're losing O'Shane, so they're losing a lot next year.
Well, yeah, because there are 22 seniors on this team, and you look at that schedule next year. You're in Blacksburg next year. You got UVA next year.
Mm-hmm. And that's what's so.
With that being said, too. Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, I was saying that's what's so disappointing about this team, and Coach Wilder will say the same thing. This was the most experienced team he's ever had. I mean, every year,
22 seniors.
22 seniors, and. It's
and these are probably, you got to say, these seniors are probably the FBS recruits. The FCS guys are probably funneled out of the system by now.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part. I mean, their first year, their transition year in FBS was 2013.
Yeah.
Their first official year in the FBS, where they were part of Conference USA, was 2014. So, this year, next year, that's really when, you maybe have a few fifth-year seniors on the team. Actually, you have quite a few fifth-year seniors on the team. So... Not quite, but yes. I mean, about now is when you see the true FBS talent start to funnel in.
Do you think changes happen? Obviously, Wilder is not going to go, but do you think he makes changes on the staff?
Man.
Do you think he needs to?
You're putting me in a tough spot because I cover the team every week. You're putting me in a tough spot because I get it.
And hopefully Coach Wilder isn't listening. I highly doubt he is.
I got to go into his press conference every Monday.
Yeah. Well, in your opinion, do you think it needs to happen?
Well, first of all, and it's not, look, Blake LaRussa has done an amazing job this year. He is a top-notch guy. I enjoy speaking to him every week. They need, I think, a true FBS quarterback. And I think that, and again, I know that's harsh to say given what Blake LaRussa did. And by the way, he led the team to the greatest win in Old Dominion football history.
Yeah.
And
you can't ever take that away from him.
Can't ever take that away from him.
They'll bring him back here for the anniversary of that, and he'll get the round of applause, at halftime and everything.
As he should. And I'm not, condemning him as a person. I mean, obviously, I enjoy.
No, he's a great kid.
No, absolutely. But is he the guy? I mean, again, here's something that the program lists him as 5'11". Nonsense. He's my
I've stood next to him as well. He's
my height.
If he's 5'11", he was standing on an apple box that day.
I think that look, they thought Steven Williams was going to be that guy, and who knows?
He's only a sophomore. He's still got time to develop.
No, he may still be that guy. But you look at sort of the prototypical FBS quarterback. He's that is at least 6'2", 6'3", 215 pounds. Can move. Doesn't have to be a lightning fast guy, but can move a little bit. I think they're still waiting for that guy that can say, "Give me the ball." And look, Blake LaRussa, I will say, he did that against Western Kentucky. 50 seconds left. He's backed up on his own 20-yard line. No timeouts left. Driving into the wind, and that kid in 4 or 5 plays goes right down the field and gets a touchdown. So it's like the whole time I'm condemning him for not being an FBS quarterback, he kind of proved me wrong. But it's just. It is hard to say the one thing that they need. If I had to guess, just based on the business of college, when your team does not perform, you are
roll.
You are going to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Do I think that something might happen? Yeah, I mean,
and Bobby's loyal to his guys.
Oh, he's extremely loyal, and he's gonna do everything he can to keep his assistant coaching staff intact. But look, there may be some coaching switches. There may be some guys that are brought in, maybe some guys that leave. It's all we got 4 games left this season, so we'll see what happens.
Well, who's they're in the bye right now. Who they got after the bye? I know VMI and Rice are left.
Yes.
Oh, North Texas, right?
North Texas is next.
And North Texas is here.
Yeah, and North
Texas is good.
They're good. Really, and Brian Parsons, our producer, about this, for a while now. North Texas is an amazing story from a standpoint of here's North Texas that comes into Conference USA, and they are bottom feeders. They
were bottom feeders for the longest time.
Worst basketball team in Conference USA, the worst football team in Conference USA, and both teams have skyrocketed right to the top. It's incredible. And not only are they the best teams. They have one of the best basketball. I think the basketball team was picked to finish like 2nd in Conference USA basketball. I mean, that's
this year?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
They're good, and so is obviously the football team is amazing. I mean, they crushed Western Kentucky, and so.
Western's 1-7 this year. So.
Yes. Well, but still, I mean, to It wasn't even a game.
Yeah.
I mean, Old Dominion, tussled back and forth with Western Kentucky. That was a weird game.
That Western Kentucky game, still one of the craziest endings I've ever seen in sports. All right, let's get off football. Let's pivot to basketball.
All right, that time of the year.
Tonight, we got ODU in their exhibition against a team that's just about, about 15 miles down the road. Virginia Wesleyan is in town for an exhibition. You'll hear right here on the airwaves of WODU beginning at 7 o'clock. Yours truly will be on the call.
All right, you excited about that?
First ever basketball game, man.
I was about to say, like, how are the nerves?
I'm a little nervous. I've done some baseball games. I've never done some basketball games.
Okay.
And baseball is kind of like a little bit of a slower pace. You kind of let the game breathe a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it should be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to be on the call for a couple games this season for men's and women's.
Nice.
Have you guys started looking at this team? Have you guys done your team preview yet?
As a matter of fact, they held their media day yesterday. Now, because I was off, I did not go. But Brian went, and we had a slight, a team preview yesterday. And
I was looking at a couple Conference USA previews, and there's a lot of pundits out there, a lot of people who follow Conference USA basketball, which is, man, that's a feat on its own. That actually, Old Dominion could be a sneaky team that could win the conference this year. And I'm kind of seeing it too. I mean, you bring it back on Ahmad Caver. You got B.J. Stith. Aaron Carver's there. You brought in DeShore Dickens. Oh, man, I almost butchered his name. You got another 7-footer that they brought in. I mean, this team, I don't want to call it Jeff's most talented team because I think that was a couple years ago when he had Trey Freeman. But this is one of the more loaded, deeper teams that he's had in recent seasons.
Well, I got to say that the debate is now up at the – look, Trey Freeman will always go down as one of the best players in Old Dominion history. He is responsible for one of the greatest shots in Old Dominion history and the shot that sent them to the NIT Final Four. But I think Ahmad Caver is quickly competing for that title as the best point guard that's ever played here because he is now in the running. I believe he was a preseason, not a finalist, but on the nominee list for the award that goes to the best point guard in the country. And he's on the same list as guys from UVA, from Justin Robinson, Virginia Tech, from guys from UCLA, from Kentucky, from Kansas. He's in that same discussion, and that guy can flat out ball.
Well, you can, and the offense is really going to run through him.
Yeah,
and this looks to be a team that's going to have a little more speed than they've had in the past. I think I've heard Jeff is going to play a little bit more zone defense this year too, and he's going to have teams like Marshall. I think Marshall was picked to win Conference USA. They score, 94 points a game?
Oh, well, with, what's the head coach's name? Shoot. Oh, gosh.
Oh, it's,
always wears
D'Antoni.
D'Antoni,
Mark D'Antoni.
Yeah,
Mike's in Houston, Mark D'Antoni.
Yeah,
Mike and Mark, whatever.
And by the way, so that's 2017. Okay. No, Old Dominion was picked to finish third this year, and, Marshall's picked to win it, and Marshall, every single year, they're not only one of the top scoring teams in Conference USA.
They're one of the top scoring teams in the country.
Yeah, they average something like 93 points a game, but Old Dominion defensively is always picked to be one of the best teams.
That's probably Jeff's bread.
Absolutely. And they play tough, they play physical, and they're not just that; they're also well coached.
Well, and they're going to be physical this year. When you got 2 7-footers, and you've got one that's possibly going to come off the bench, and there could be situations where they start both of them as well, where both of them are on the court at the same time.
I never like predicting that simply from a standpoint that look, I've seen coaches that they have a player come in and you think that, oh, this guy's definitely going to start. This guy's going to be a 25-minute guy. This guy's going to be a 30-minute guy. And then he redshirts him. You just don't know. You don't know how he's going to utilize him. You don't know how the season may take him. Is he going to stay healthy? So much can happen in a span. We haven't even seen their first game yet. I mean, they haven't played one darn game yet. So we're going to find out tonight exactly, kind of how he toys with the lineup and how he plays with it and that kind of thing. But that being said, you can't coach 7 feet. Also, we have to wait and see. Look, DeShore Dickens, while he is a 7-footer, apparently I've heard he's basically just as skinny now as he was.
Well, yeah,
he was a senior at Bethel.
Well, he only played 3 games last year because he was hurt.
So that's the thing.
But the kid was a top 150 recruit, so there's a lot of promise there.
Yeah, but we got to see how it manifests itself and how how he plays, how he's used to the system, how he's offensively can handle Division I.
Well, if he's skinny, I'm at the Web Center and I'm looking at Panda Express, I'm looking at Pizza Hut, there's a Chick-fil-A, there's a Subway here.
Eat up.
Hey, eat up, baby. And you got to think, too, probably the leading scorer on the team is probably going to be B.J. Stith. He'll probably be the focal point of the offense. Mm-hmm. I'm excited. I'm kind of excited to see this Old Dominion team. I'm kind of I think there's some buzz around them that maybe people will start coming back to the games.
Well, here's the unfortunate part is that, look, I went to a lot of games last year. I mean, I went to all but a few as far as Conference USA schedule. And look, unfortunately, just Conference USA does not draw the same way.
They were a 25-win team last year, and they didn't make the tournament. I mean, that just goes to show you what Conference USA basketball is all about.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. We talked about this, I think, ad nauseum last year, was just, with regards to how they did not make either the NIT or the NCAA tournament, there was like only one scenario that could have happened that could have prevented them from getting in. And it was, if I can remember correctly, because the three top teams in Conference USA were Marshall, Western Kentucky, and Middle Tennessee. Basically, Middle Tennessee was top dog all year long, and it was basically assumed, which is what happened, I believe, if I think back on it, that it was always assumed that Middle Tennessee, even if they didn't win Conference USA,
they would get the at-large bid.
They would get the at-large bid. So you wanted them to at least make the championship round. When they didn't make it, Old Dominion said, hey, doors open for us. But then you have Western Kentucky and Marshall. Now, if I remember, they swept Marshall, but then Marshall goes on to win the whole thing. So the sweeping during the regular season was a moot point. That didn't matter. And then you have finally Western Kentucky, and you kind of needed to win because you could then at least say, hey, why would you take Marshall in the NIT when Old Dominion swept Marshall? So then it was like, out of everything that needed to happen, none of it
happened, yeah. So and they probably wanted to take Marshall because, the NIT, you want eyeballs on there, and a team that scores 94 points a game is going to put eyeballs on your television.
And obviously, like I said, it was a moot point when they won the whole darn thing. So they're into the tournament. And then Western Kentucky, because they made the championship game, they're basically an automatic into the NIT. And, they're not going to take two at-large bids from Conference USA. So, it was Middle Tennessee was kind of snubbed, and then at that point, Old Dominion is like left in the dark. So it was very odd. It was very odd. You're right. A 25-win team didn't make the tournament, and you hate to say this because look, if you win, you take care of your problems. That's just bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, winning is the best deodorant in all sports.
But at the same time, it was one of those scenarios where it's hard to blame Old Dominion just based on the Russian roulette that kind of happened at the end of the season. So. It was very, very interesting, but just like you, I'm excited.
They got a good shot. They got a good shot to make the tournament this year. And ladies, I won't leave you out. We'll do a women's preview next week. There's a lot more stuff I want to get to, and we don't have a lot of time left.
Flying again?
We're flying again. All right, let's talk Redskins. Redskins, first place in the NFC East.
First place.
5-2. Wow. If you would have told me that
season, which team was 5-2? Which one was 3-4? Atlanta or Redskins?
Atlanta had Super Bowl aspirations.
Yeah.
Not anymore. If you would have told me the Redskins were in first place and 5-2 at this point of the season, probably would have had you committed. But here's what I like about the Redskins, and we're going to talk about the move that they just made here for a second because I love the move that they just made. I love old school physical football, and that's what the Redskins do. They pound the rock. Somehow, some way, they got life out of Adrian Peterson. And man, you want to talk MVPs for the team? I know everyone wants to talk DJ Swearinger. Man, AP might be the MVP of that offense right now. I love the defense, man. I love the way they play. Man, Matt Ioannidis, dude. Him and the Alabama wall. You got DJ Swearinger who plays with so much emotion.